What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more U2, and we're back to finish the proper album of Rattle and Hum, 1988, though I did want to mention, shout out to Adam who's been sharing the audio files for this album, and he has multiple bonus discs, so I guess there was a deluxe or expanded edition. Given what people have said and about moving to the next phase, I think I'm going to move on to Octoon Baby, and big shout out to Izzy, who has provided a lot of insight and some information leading into that part of their career, which we'll talk more about, but I figure at some point I could circle back and react to some of the bonus tracks or additional recordings that were included in some expanded version of the album. Shout out, of course, also to Mr. Solo, who shared U2 at the beginning of this deep dive. But yes, my plan is to do this reaction, move on to Octoon Baby, and at some point we can circle back for any of these bonus tunes included on some special version of Rattle and Hum. In any case, the last track on the normal part of the album is All I Want Is You. I was curious because I've reacted to a song by Roxy Music by this name, but my understanding is no, it's not a cover, it's not a song by some other group. This is an original song by U2, so I'm looking forward to hearing what they do with that phrase, which I have heard as a title of a track before. So yes, ultimately this has been a really incredible experience, a couple great live performances of tunes that I had heard from U2 before. Bullet the Blue Sky, it seems pretty unanimous that that performance, that particular live version, is maybe the definitive version of an already great song that was in studio form, or that was on a previous album that I have heard. I also enjoyed, some of the extra bits, the spoken word / interview / interlude tracks that were not songs proper, but added to the texture of the album overall. So, as I said, I'm looking forward to the concluding track here. Let's give it a listen. This is U2 and their song, All I Want Is You, the last track on at least the normal version of the Rattle and Hum album, 1988.
You say you want diamonds on a ring of gold. You say you want your story to remain untold, but all the promises we made from the cradle to the grave, when all I want is you.
a tune, and what a good track to end the album on. So, as I was listening, not only was I hearing some of the soulful and bluesy elements which they've certainly incorporated into their work and made a staple ingredient of their sound. Luca, where did you just come from? I didn't even know you were in the room. But secondarily, I was thinking at a couple moments along the way, it was reminding me of this uplifting, grand feel of a song like With or Without You or In the Name of Love. Like, it reminded me of both of those tunes over the course of the track. And once again, we hear Bono's incredible vocals, including when he really, turns on that raspy fire, and you can just feel the passion of the title line and concluding or culminating line of the chorus coming through very clearly. But I will say, and I've focused especially on Bono's vocals, it seems more and more as their discography, as I've gone through their discography in chronological order. But Edge's guitar, this is something that I've talked about and people have emphasized themselves in the comments as I've gone through their material. But here, it's just incredible. It starts relatively low key, and it starts to build, and it starts to rise up in terms of the tone, and then it gets more powerful and louder, and by the end of the track, it's really just the defining feature of this one. So, knowing that Edge's guitar, understanding on some level through the handful of tunes I had known going into this deep dive that it was a major feature of their sound, I've come to a much greater appreciation of that. And a tune like this, as I'm hearing it, it's just like more and more as the song went along, it was like, oh my god, but Edge's guitar, are you hearing this? And then it kicks up to an even higher level, and the feeling intensifies. So again, shout out to all four of them, and I'm assuming there's some supporting musicians here because I'm hearing, like keyboard work and so on, and the sort of like an organ sound, and obviously we have some strings which not only had a very lush orchestral feel to them, but by the end, the rapid fire reminds me more of like fiddle playing, where there's a folksy element to it as well. So definitely a full sound on this one, incorporating multiple elements of what has become their expanded sound. But yes, a special nod to Edge's guitar work on this one, which is just mesmerizing. So yeah, again, lyrically, as it starts and he's talking about, a gold band with a diamond on it, but also you not wanting your story to be fully told, and thinking about a song like With or Without You, I'm thinking this is a song by Bono written to or about or both his wife, and her maybe being in the background, but him feeling their relationship and needing to articulate his feelings in that regard. Now again, knowing that they write songs about religious feelings and beliefs and attitudes, I feel like you could maybe extrapolate that into that domain, but that was my thought, that this is about his wife. And then there's some lines like, about all the promises we made cradle to the grave that feel like maybe they're beyond that specific relationship, because assuming that they didn't know each other in the cradle, but the idea of that, across your whole life, you make all these promises and you have all these encounters and experiences, but at the end of it, he'll sweep all that off the table. All he wants is his wife. So I feel like that seems to be the central locus of the themes at play. But I think, again, maybe some of them, or some of the lines, you could interpret more broadly and, within the larger palette of U2 lyrics. But yes, just a very transcendent song, an uplifting song, a very epic and powerful song, sonically and vocally and guitar-wise maybe in particular. So yes, a great culmination and conclusion to the normal part of Rattle and Hum. As I said, my plan is to go on to Achtung Baby, and once again, shout out to all the folks who've been part of this, and especially those who've provided some parts of the musical material that I've been going through, and also to Izzy, who's given me some insight as to the next phase of their career. So looking forward to that. Let me know what you think of this, and I will see you next time. Peace.